Welcome to Elliott's PT podcast. I'm here to help you find your balance and live your best life guilt-free. I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all approach for health and fitness. We're all different and we need to find out what works for us. I'm passionate about helping people make realistic, long-term lifestyle changes that they will stick to and they will take with them forever. I don't believe in crazy diets or short-term fixes. We all need to live and find a perfect balance in diet and exercise that suits our individual needs. I want to help you find your exercise mojo, feel great and achieve wonderful things. Here is Elliott's PT podcast by Renae Elliott. Hello, and welcome back to Elliott's PT podcast. So today I want to talk about a really important topic, and it is something that I recommend to everybody and I say it all the time to people, but I thought that I would go a little bit deeper into it to help explain what it actually means. So I want to talk about listening to your body. So what does it mean when somebody tells you just listen to your body? How do you perceive that? And, so some people are really, really in tune with their bodies, and others, they might feel completely disconnected. And to me, listening to your body means that when your body is feeling something, anything, we should consider that it is a signal. It is a signal to tell us that we need to do something, and it's tuning into that. I always say to everybody that your body is your best teacher, and, teaching you what things, whether it's going by if you're injured or how you feel after doing something, or just what your gut's telling you. And it's really telling you what is the right thing for you. And there is no right or wrong. It's just living by the rules and living by what works for you and your body. So is that, I can hear people saying, so is that you saying, well, if my body's telling me to eat a whole bag of chocolate cookies instead of going a run, should I do that? Well, you can do, but if you were going to do that, I want you to really think, stop and consider how are you going to feel after? So will you feel good? Or when you eat that whole bag of chocolate, will you feel bloated? Will you feel tired? Will you feel crappy about yourself? Will you then beat yourself up because you did that and you didn't go for a run? Will you feel more sluggish? Or will you feel more hungry because you haven't eaten proper food and you've just filled yourself up with cookies? So I ask you to think that bit further as to how that would actually make you feel. But you know what? Some days, there are days that is exactly what you need to do. And that is why we want to become more in tune with our bodies. So I think it's really important to also start to learn the difference between what different pains are. So if we're talking about doing exercise, if you're doing exercise, and obviously when you are working out, the idea is you need to tear your muscles, and then they're going to repair, and they're going to repair stronger and leaner. So we want to work out what's the difference between that you've actually really torn your muscles and you've hurt yourself, or between that you're feeling challenged and it's hard because it's going to be, and what's that difference between, okay, I'm feeling challenged, this is hard and I'm starting to struggle, and the pain is because I'm tired, lactic acid might be starting to set in, or what is actually I need to stop because I'm going to really I'm hurting myself and I don't want to continue. So it's becoming in tune with that and learning what your body's signals are, learning the difference between, what is real fatigue and when have you been overtraining, and when you should stop, when you should slow down, when you sometimes need to just actually rest. Because like I've said in previous podcasts, recovery, magic is in your recovery. And all of this is a skill, and it does take time to learn and to master. When you're listening to your body, it's learning to translate the hundreds of signals that it's receiving. So it could be listening to the sound of your feet hitting the ground when you're running, what your breathing is like, how the overall effort level of a certain activity feels. So if we feel like we did something and we really struggle, or it felt like easy, how do you feel after you eat certain foods? Are you left feeling bloated, really sluggish, really tired? So your body is picking up all these signals. And you can pick up some of these signals from your heart rate, your perceived effort, your breathing rate, how you feel, like after this type of workout, were your legs really sore? Did you not recover very well? And what your mental status is. And it does, again, take time to learn how to interpret these signals, and then it's a lot of trial and error to see what works best for you. But listening to your body, it doesn't give you an excuse just to quit. It gives you feedback that may help you to decide what is the best path for you, whether you need to stop, whether you need to do something else, or whether you need to keep going, or whether, and the more types of stresses your body experiences, you're going to get better at deciphering those signals. So it can be a good help to start taking an inventory of the language that your body is speaking. So whenever you're struggling, start to ask why. So I always ask people to try to start to follow their cycle, and to look at your cycle and where your cycle's at, because that is a big indicator of where we could be. So there can be times of the month where we feel flatter, and it's actually not our fault. It is because we are hormonally challenged at that point. And becoming in tune with that, and understanding that you can be kinder to yourself. You can also adapt. So whether you adapt by choosing a lighter weight, choosing a different activity that's better for your body at that time, and also looking at adjusting your food. So sometimes there is, again, certain times of the month where you might crave more carbohydrates, so making sure that it's prepared, or you might have a sweeter craving, and so then you make sure you have a sweet alternative that works for you available. So when I truly believe that when you're more in tune with your body's signals, listening to your body, and you're paying it more attention, you'll perform so much better, and you'll really achieve to what you set out to do. And it is something I've always been aware of, and it shocks me sometimes when I hear people who's like they don't tune into any of that stuff. So really start to tune in and listen to some of the signals that your body's telling you. I didn't tune into my cycle. And for a long time, and I just believed that you had to push harder and harder and just get through it. And now that I've actually learnt to listen to my body and pick up things in my cycle, I'm amazed how many signals I was actually getting that I was just ignoring. So when we're learning to become more in tune with our bodies, I really want to ask you to slow down. So I want you to ask yourself a few questions. So slowing down, and ask yourself, like, how am I feeling? Where are my energy levels at? Where is my head at? How am I feeling in our bodies? With all this crazy activity that life gives us, and we have it all going on all around us, it's really easy for us to ignore what is going on the inside. But what's going on the inside makes a difference on the outside, and our happiness and everything else. And trust me, I've totally been there before. I used to live my life a lot more fast-paced. I think my husband still thinks I'm fast-paced, but I was worse. I used to be a lot worse. I used to burn the candle totally at both ends. I did everything for everyone else. I put myself last, and I didn't do what worked for me. I just tried to please. That was my personality, is tried to please everybody else, and I believed that I just would have to push through. So just push through no matter what, and do it. So I used to work, when I was younger, I would work in a florist, and I finished at the florist, and then I would go work in the pub, and I'd finish working at, so you would maybe start at 8 o'clock in the florist or so, and then work in the pub till 2 o'clock or something in the morning. And then stupidly, like now I look back and I'm like, why? I used to then drive people home. So I would then drive people home, and some nights I would be driving for 2 hours, just dropping all the punters home. Well, when I look back, I'm like, why did I even do that? And I didn't take any petrol money off anyone, but dickhead here used to do that. Sorry, I swore. So I used to do that. So I did, and I burnt the candle at both ends. And I was, in the end, I was doing this for everybody else, and I was really unhappy. But I wasn't aware of it. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I felt I had to, and I didn't. But I didn't have the tools then. I didn't know then that I could be different. And, luckily I don't live my life that way. And definitely having my kids and my husband, it's really changed how I perceive things, and I started to become more in tune with my body. So I remember when I first met my husband, we met overseas, and I had this great boss overseas when I was working, and he was like, I worked in a pub, and he was like, no, you don't work a Friday night. If you work a Friday night, you don't work a Saturday night. And I was like, what? Because where I had come from, you had to work a Friday and Saturday night because it's hospitality, and that was it. And, so then they started, and then my husband, when people would ask me to cover a shift or do those things, he would start getting annoyed at me because he knew I was unhappy. And it was good to have somebody else there that cared for me to tell me. And that's how I started, it was the start of me to become more in tune with my body and what actually was making me happy and what was working for me. And I really learned that fast-paced life, it doesn't work for me. I'm not actually getting things done. I've just got my fingers in all the pies. I'm trying to do as much as I can to please everybody else. I'm not helping myself, but I'm also I'm not actually present and not really getting things done. I'm just touching the surface of everything, and I'm knackered in the process. So I've really learned that I need to put myself first in order to be good for everybody else. And I've really learned to be in tune with and understand that my body gives me so many signals, and I just ignored them for years. And it was so good. It's good to be that more aware and to have that awareness. So what could you start doing to start becoming more aware? So the first thing I would suggest is slowing down, learning to really, really slow down. We live in a very fast-paced world. And I think COVID showed this to a lot of people when we didn't have to go to, didn't have to do school drop-offs or take them to after-school activities or be here for a certain time. Everybody had to just stay home. It really showed us how, I know some people said like that slower pace really worked for their lifestyle. And it's starting to think, how can you put those things into your life so then you are slowing down more? And are you someone that thinks you're really good at multitasking? And, are you actually multitasking, or are you just, if you, I've said the thing, if you use a word like, I can't think of the exact words, but if you had a word like dog and sun. So we're going to say dog, D-O-G, sun, S-U-N. But if we're going to do both, spell them both at the same time, we're going to go D-S-O-U-G-N. Now see how much longer that took me to spell out those two words. That's what, are you multitasking, but are you actually taking even longer instead of just focusing on one thing and getting that done? So that's something for you to think about. And, our bodies are performing like thousands of tasks per minute in order to keep us alive and thriving. And I understand that your body is a totally amazing machine and it wants to work for you. So it's giving us subtle messages all the time, but lots of us aren't being in tune with it. So, something like is something's hot. So it's going to give you a little message that's hot, so you know not to keep touching it. Signal that's going to burn you. It's looking at these, starting to tune to these subtle messages because they're so easily overlooked, especially when we're going at a fast pace. And I did this for years. I just, ran on autopilot and did what I had to do. I definitely was not fueling my body correctly. I was totally burning the candle at both ends. Things like if your body is, that's why I always say to everybody, it's your best teacher because it's telling you that it needs something to change. So things like, if you've got sore knees, does it mean that you need a different pair of trainers, or does it mean that, your glutes are not working, or there's something else that's not firing properly? Do you have dry skin? Does that mean that we need to be moisturizing? Do we have a headache? Does that mean that we're really stressed, or we maybe haven't had enough water that day? If you're feeling really exhausted after a HIIT class, well, then maybe you need to do a yoga session or a Pilates class instead. Do you feel bloated after you eat ice cream? Well, maybe that's telling you that dairy doesn't quite work for you. So it's starting to become in tune with these things. I know I was talking to somebody about bloating, and they, like when I was measuring them, I could see every time I was measuring them, I could see her tummy. I could just tell from the look of her tummy that it was bloated. And I said to her, "You're bloated." And she would say to me, "No, I don't even know." She didn't even know what bloated was. And slowly but surely, she started to pay more attention, and she started to notice that, yes, she was bloated, but she was just so used to that bloat. She didn't know any different. So she just thought it was normal. And that's the thing, is it's starting to become more in tune. And then now she's still in the process of trying to realize what foods, do bloat her and what foods work for her. I remember when I stopped eating, I used to have milk in my coffee. And when I started realizing, I realized that I had this bloated, I had a pain in my stomach that was there all the time, but I didn't realize. I was so used to it. I was living with that all the time. So there's things that you don't recognize, that you might be feeling that same way because you just get so used to it. And the body's so amazing. Like, your glutes, so many people's glutes don't work. So your glutes don't fire on. And what happens when they don't fire on? Another muscle tries to take over. So it might pull into your back, it might pull into your hamstrings, and it's because the body's just trying to still be able to do the same task for you. And but listen to it and start to notice. I just continually tell people, doing my classes, like, if we are doing an exercise and it is pulling in your neck, you're doing a core exercise, it's pulling in your neck. We're not trying to work our neck. So it's, you need to strip it back a level, work out why, strip it back a level. You're maybe just not there yet, because when it's pulling in the neck, you're not working your core anymore. So it's really important to try to slow down and refocus your attention. And you'll be so surprised as to how many signals that you start picking up and you didn't even realize they were there. Trust me, it's slowing down is probably the number one thing. The second tip would be to start looking more in and becoming more aware of your mind-body connection. So starting to learn to listen to and honoring your body. Often it means doing an emotional check-in. And so, thinking about things like, how do you feel after multiple late nights? Are you feeling excited, empowered at wherever you're at or whatever you're doing? Or are you feeling totally overwhelmed? What roadblocks keep coming up for you? So are you doing the same, are you on the same loop every time? And I know some people that are doing the same loop. So I want you to ask yourself the questions like, why? And start to tune into that and realize why. So through time, I just cannot cope with late nights. So if we when I was younger, we would go out, on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, whatever. We would go out and all of that stuff. And I just can't cope with it now. And for me, if I have a really late night, I suffer for it for a whole week. And I just don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that. I feel like I'm catching up the whole week, that I feel tired, lethargic, my body just doesn't cope with it. So I don't like it. I know the time that works for me to go to bed, I make sure I do it. And I've just been through the times, and I've been in tune with my body and worked out that I don't enjoy that feeling. I don't enjoy how that feels, and that if I'm having a late night, it takes me a week to recover. I don't really drink much alcohol. I like to have a glass of wine, but 1 or 2 is my maximum. I don't like having any more for the same reason. I don't enjoy how it makes me feel. So I don't like having hangovers. I don't like any of that stuff. So it's not worth it to me to do it. So that's how I make those choices, because I don't like how my body feels, and it doesn't feel like I'm missing out on anything, because I'm making that choice because I don't enjoy the feeling. So I definitely don't feel like I'm missing out anything. And when you're starting to tune, you're asking yourself these questions and you're starting to tune the information. It's really interesting to start to pick up on the information that you receive, and it will help you start to distinguish like what feels right from the what feels right now. I'm also terrible for and I'm always reminding myself of these things. So I'm terrible I did it last night actually. So I was watching a TV show, and it was a series, and it came to the end, and the episode was had a bit of a cliffhanger, So I was like, oh, I have to watch the next one. And I watched the next one, and it meant I was up another, hour or so. But then I pay for it today. And then, so it's just so, of course I still do the same things, but it's just a reminder not to do that, because, I then struggled today, and then it means I struggled the whole day just for that extra 45 minutes or an hour. For me, you got to remind yourself, is that worth it? But when we start to, focus more on our mind-body connection, and we can start to really honor our bodies more and work out what really, truly does work for us. The other thing is with the mind-body connection is when you are exercising, I always emphasize to everybody to focus on the muscle that you are trying to work. So focus on that muscle, and when you are focusing your attention on that muscle in the time, you can make your workout intensity so much harder, and you get such a better result because you're focusing on that muscle, and that muscle is truly working. I'll always be saying to people, what muscle should we be working? Where should you be feeling this? And some people be like, oh, I don't know. Or I'm feeling it in my forearm. And I'm like, no, it shouldn't be. We want to be feeling it, in your shoulders, in your biceps. So when you know where you're feeling it and you're focusing on that connection, you're going to get a better result. So it's really important to become more aware of our mind-body connection. My third tip is to practice the self-care rituals. Now, these are so important, and it's really so essential for our well-being, and it's something that I think is missed all the time. When you are prioritizing self-care, then you will end up showing up better and brighter in any other aspect of your life. I guarantee it. And whenever I feel highly stressed out, I'm worried, I have a crisis, or anything like that, my self-care rituals, they are the things that save the day every time. And I know the things that work for me, and they're a non-negotiable in my life. They're a non-negotiable thing that happens. And I think especially as mums, we seem to feel that we need to put ourselves last. And I am I've been here before, and I've done it myself. And we seem to put ourselves last and put everyone else first, because they need this and the kids need this, and I need to do this other things for my family, and whatever else you need to do. And you just put yourself last because you feel there's not enough time or it's not important. But when you are good, everything else falls into place. So put yourself first, because you need to be happy. And when you are happy, then everything else becomes easier. You don't get as angry at your kids. You can, if there's a stressful situation, you can cope with it better. You can manage it. It is life-changing. So work out those self-care rituals and prioritize them. The self-care rituals, they're like scheduling personal dates, that it instantly reminds you to check in with yourself. They're different. They're totally different for everyone. There's no right or wrong. It could be like saying a mantra to yourself, exercising, yoga, meditation, swimming, walking. So all these small practices, they can have a big impact across the board. And you need to put them in your calendar, and do anything that feeds your soul and nourishes your body, and give yourself the permission to do so. And adapt to a routine that really serves your highest self, and do not feel guilty for it. I see all the time, and I see like the spiral of people that feel they either, they put themselves last. And exercise is a massive thing that works for our mental health, and it is one of those self-care rituals, putting it in. And they're like, oh, well, the kids need this and I couldn't do it. And exercise, I always prioritize it. I prioritize it not just because I'm a trainer, but I prioritize it because I know how good it makes me feel and how important it is to do that first, so everything else flows. And like I said, I see it all the time. People, they just drop their exercise. But when you drop your exercise, you suddenly don't start eating as well, or you're maybe not up as early, and other things start to drop off. I see it all the time. It's a loop, and other things start to drop off, and you feel crappy about yourself. But whenever you do this, become aware of it and then pick it up and keep those self-care rituals as number one. My last tip is to practice moving, breathing, and sitting still. So for this circumstance, I'm not talking about going and smashing a HIIT session in the gym or going for a run with blasting music. There is definitely a time and place for that, and I love all that stuff. But I am reminding you and talking about slowing down. I'm going deeper into your body, exploring it, exploring your feelings, your breath, and every part of your body from head to toe and how it makes you feel. And this is why I love the practice of yoga so much. And it is something that, you know, in a perfect world, I would do it every day because of how good it makes me feel. Now, I used to be somebody that didn't like yoga. I thought it was too slow, boring. I just didn't like it. I thought it was too slow for me. That's what I used to think. But I was so naive. Yoga is just amazing. And the pace of the practice, the ritual of the poses, the attention, and the intention that's required, they're all such wonderful tools for tuning into your body, your mind, and your soul, and becoming more aware of all of those things. When you're doing your practice, you can be thinking, and I always feel amazing when I finish yoga, and that's what I remind myself of all the time. I always think, how do I feel? How is my breathing? Is everything aligned? Or where am I, you know, when I'm doing my practice, where am I really tight? Oh, I'm super tight in here, in my legs, you know. And when I finish, I totally savor the savasana. Like, I used to lay there and I used to be like, hurry up, get this done. Come on, I can't stand this, get it done. And now I can't wait for it, and I truly relax and I love it. And for anybody that used to have that, I think they call it the monkey mind, that used to be like me and couldn't relax and had it going, you know, I used to just lay there going, hurry, just stick with it. Just stick with it. It takes time, but it took me time to repeatedly do it. And now I can't wait for it. I love it. And I love that it makes me feel so relaxed, and it makes me feel so great for the rest of the day. So, you know, when we are really slowing down like this, it gives us the opportunity to get to know yourself a bit better, more intimately, and it's learning what serves you and what doesn't serve you. It is something that I just love how it makes me feel. And I notice, you know, like I was saying before, I recognize that I'm really tight in one area. And I just feel when you become more aware of that, you can get onto those things before they become a bigger problem. So many people do not stretch properly. They don't stretch. They don't see the importance of stretching. I see so many people, the class will finish, they'll go, all right, I've got to go. And I'll go stretch at home. And they go, yeah. And I know that they don't when they go home. And it's so important. It's so important. And your body will love you for it. And like I said, there's this beautiful, flexible world out there that so many people are missing out on how good it feels. And I really, truly believe that lots of aches and pains and injuries and all that would be prevented if people learnt to stretch and become more in tune with their bodies. In the modern world, it's really crazy, hectic, busy, and we are taught by society to kind of put yourself last. As you know, whether you see it on your people are on social media or whatever else, you'll see in the TV that you're judged for doing things, or people have little things to say if they see that you're exercising or you're not doing this for your children. And I remember people always said to me, why did you go back to work so early? Like, why did you not stop working? Or those types of things. And I was like, this is after I had my babies, and I was like, this is my mental health. This is me looking after myself, that because I needed that little bit of time of some human interaction, not with the baby, and it was so important. And I prioritized it, and it's all part of being more in tune with your body. And it seems easier to tune out than what it does to tune in. And I want you to think, you know, some people that can't sit still, or they can't be in silence. And I want you to ask yourself why. Like, why do you not want to be alone with your thoughts? What's going on there? And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes we have to work through some difficult things. We have to face some things we've never wanted to face, or we're not quite ready to face at all. But is continuing to ignore it, is that helping you as well? Is it's still in the back of your mind cropping up, and you could deal with it. And then you can move on. So just think, is there those, if you're someone that you struggle really to be still, to sit still with yourself, or to be alone with your thoughts, then ask yourself why. What do you think's going on there? And at the end of the day, your biggest responsibility is you. No one loves you more than what you love yourself. And your body is always going to be sending you feedback. So start to tune in, start to take notes, and create a new rule book of how to really, truly care for yourself. And it's super important, so important. And so when somebody says to you, listen to your body, hopefully you might have a new meaning of it, or maybe you're someone that's already quite in tune with your body, and that's amazing, but maybe there's some things we need to fine tune. So please make sure that if you think there is anybody that would benefit from this podcast, please share it on to them, and make sure that if it does help you, or you've learned something from it, please send me a message. I would love to hear. Okay, we'll speak to you soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Elliott's PT podcast. I hope you have been able to find this information of use to you. If you know someone who might enjoy this podcast, please share it with them, and ensure that you subscribe so you can be the first to know when new podcasts are released. If you have the time to leave a 5-star review, that would be amazing, and it would be greatly appreciated. If you do so, please screenshot and share onto any of our socials and tag us. Then email the screenshot to hello@elliotspt.com, and we will send you a free gift to your inbox. Thanks so much. Have an amazing day. Speak soon.